You're kicking it with G on your favorite station.
The perfect station.
92 KELZ, the only station with new music, new artists, new sound.
I'm in here with Miss Anitra RossHaywood. We're going to talk to you about children's safety, especially after all this crazy stuff that's been happening this week. You know what I mean? We got to talk about it. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing great. See, I told you we're going to get in here, you know, we're going to just enjoy ourselves. We're going to talk about whatever.
Let's do it.
So, for the people that don't know anything about you, tell them who you are.
Okay. Like you said, I'm Anitra RossHaywood, and I am a childcare trainer and consultant. So that's what I do now. My company is called RossHaywood Training and Consulting, so it's self-explanatory. So that's what I do. I train childcare providers. Anybody in the childcare profession, industry, childcare provider industry, I help them do what they need to do.
So you making sure everybody stay on these guidelines and make sure they doing what they supposed to be doing.
Yes, I do what I can. I do what I can, yes.
So how long have you been in it?
Well, I started in the industry probably about 10 years ago, plus. I came to open my own company by way of childcare licensing. So childcare licensing is the agency under the Department of Family and Protective Services that regulates childcare facilities. So originally, when I worked for childcare licensing, I was the inspector who came out to make sure the daycare centers did what they were supposed to. So my company is just
so you come in with the hammer, like, what's going on up in here?
Not a hammer, maybe just a stick. But it was, it was real serious business about keeping children safe. But no, we didn't come in with the hammer, but we came in with the law. So that may even be stronger than the hammer. So that's what I did. And my company, I do the same thing. Where I do inspections, I go help daycare centers through consulting and training, but I serve more as a support system opposed to the regulator, the person laying down the hammer. So it's more of a relaxed setting, but I still feel like I'm making a difference, by keeping kids safe in daycare.
Okay, so how did you get into it? Like, how did you know that this was your passion that you wanted to pursue?
The funny thing is that I did not know childcare licensing existed before I got the job, right? I went to the babysitter down the street, just like probably most of us did as a kid. So I didn't even know it existed. So once I did, the feeling you got when people did things well, right, was a great feeling. Yeah. So when I left, I still had a yearn to do it, right? So this is the way that I figured I can still do the same things, use the knowledge and the tools that I received from them to continue on helping the kids in daycare. So, and I have kids too, so that might be part of the passion.
Hey, now some people don't have kids, but the fact that you have kids and you want to do it, you be like, hey, somebody need to guide these kids.
That's right.
Somewhere. So I mean, it's all a good thing though. But at least people don't even. I'm glad it is people like you out there that is actually watching along the guidelines, going around to these daycares to make sure that people are, doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I mean, just to talk about that, like, what are, I guess, the expectations of most daycares? Like, of course, we're going to talk about nutrition. We'll talk about, I guess, exercise, and we'll talk about actually the ratio of how many people are supposed to be per kid. Yeah.
Oh, so those are real good key things. And what the daycare centers have to abide by is called the minimum standards book. Okay. So there's a standard book that they have to follow, and it has the rules and regulations within it. Now the book is about 250 pages long. Some refer to it as the Bible, but I'm not gonna say it like that. But it's what you have to use all the time in childcare, and you have to always refer back to it. So in the standard book, topics from ratio, like you said, child nutrition, outdoor play, those things are included in the book, and it tells you like you can only have one adult for every 4 infants. The younger infants under 11 months. So everybody doesn't know that. So you have to go to that book to make sure that when children come into daycare, before you receive them in your classroom, that you're abiding by this ratio.
Now, just on that ratio alone, one adult to 4 infants. Let me just get that right. Like, first of all, 1 baby is enough.
Yes.
Maybe 2, but 4? Like, why 4? Why not 3 or why not 2? Because we all know that it's a different level when you're dealing with infants.
Right. The reason for the law, I'm not particularly sure. And I know a lot of times the law is revisited to try to see if the ratio can be reduced, because 4 to 1 is a lot. We're asking, or childcare providers are asked to do the things that parents generally aren't asked to do. 9 times out of 10, parents won't have 4 babies at one time. It happens. But most
I know
times,
somebody that got 4 at one
okay,
time.
well, most times it doesn't. I don't know anyone like that. But we do ask, child care providers are asked to do way more than what parents are asked to do. So I think the numbers are high too. So one other thing that I offer in my classes is how to operate above the standard. So this is called minimum standard. So this is just the basic requirement. You're always invited to, and I always recommend that providers go above the standard. So if you think 4 to 1 is a lot of children like I do, then do 2 to 1, do 2 to 4, and that's doing more than what you're supposed to. So if something happens, you have more teachers in the building to help out.
So it's allowed for any parent to come in and be like, okay, what is the ratio of kids that you have here to infants? If they can't tell you or provide you the information, then could you, I mean, not to really say anything bad, but could you consider, okay, this is really a daycare that keeps up with the standards?
You could, and I do. I'm glad you mentioned the parents, because I think parents should know what those rules are, because a lot of times parents don't. So when they go into a center and think it's crazy that there's 5 babies with 1 teacher, it is crazy because the standard says that you're not allowed to do that. So I do think parents should be educated, and the website dfps.state.tx.us, if you go to that website and look up child care licensing, you can search the minimum standards and see if your daycare that you're sending your child to, first off, if they're listed, because you have to be listed on the website to know that they're a legal daycare center. And then see what the rules are. If you have a question about something, see if the rules support, the issue that you're having, and if you can address that with them. Well, I looked it up and the standard says this, but you're doing this. How can we fix it?
Okay. And what's your parents like? What should they be looking for? Like, what are maybe 3 or 4 things that they should look for coming into a daycare?
Okay, that's a good question. 3 or 4 things to look for. For one, you want to make sure that the children are not out of control. Okay. So much happens when children are not being controlled. They expect to be controlled. They look forward to us telling them what to do and when to do it. Even though they may complain and not want to do it, they know that we have to guide them, because without our guidance, it would be crazy and chaotic, right? So make sure that the center is in control. Make sure there's enough teachers there. Make sure that when you go into the building, there's a teacher in the classroom that you're putting your child in, okay? Teachers they shouldn't be roaming around and not in the classroom. They're required to be in the classroom because that's a supervision issue, okay? Look for the postings. There's the inspection report. It's supposed to be posted on the wall to where you can just go up and see it. You can flip through and see what their compliance history is like. So look for that. Make sure that they're an open book, so that you can see and you can know how things are going at their daycare center. What did I give you? 3?
3.
Okay, number 4.
And we're gonna go back and touch on.
Okay.
Because there's so many questions, like each one.
Okay. I would look to see if the kids are happy. That's me personally. I would want to see if the children are happy, if the staff are happy. Is it a happy environment? Because that's key. Because you want your child to be happy when they're there. Okay.
Now let's just think on happy kids. Now we think of happy kids, we thinking of out of control kids, or we think about happy, because you gotta think they everywhere. Now we talking about age range for out of control kids. Let's say infants go from newborn to 2.
According to the standards, infants is 0 to 17 months.
0 to 17. I guess potty training, before potty training. Well, right around that time.
You're good. You're potty train them at 18 months. But yeah, 0 to 17 months is considered infants according to the standards. So once they reach 18 months, then it's a different ratio. Ratios that you look
because
at.
I was going off your first thing. You make sure the kids are not out of control. Because we all know kids are out of control.
They can be. Well, see, this is the key. We already said that we're expecting child care providers to do more than the typical parent does, because they have more children than a typical family would have, right? So
we definitely gonna talk about that.
Keeping control consists of having activities, having daily plans, making sure they're where they're supposed to be. If it's circle time, make sure they're all in the circle. That's how you keep them safe. So keeping control of your classroom is one of the key ways to make sure that the children aren't injured, because you have a lot of children compared to what the typical home has, for example.
That which brings me to my next thing, the next thing that you brought up was teachers around the classroom. What should be the standards for a teacher for daycare?
Child care providers have to have training. That's one of the key things. Every year, they have to have 24 clock hours of training. That's where I come in at, because I conduct trainings for
So
staff.
every year, at least 24 hours of training.
24 clock hours of training every single year. Okay, and the standard tells you specifically what topics. Supervision. If you deal with infants, you have to have the SIDS, the shaken baby, the abusive head trauma. Like, all those trainings are required, and it's listed. So you know specifically what you have to have every year, depending on which age group you're caring for, and what role you play at the daycare center. If you're driving, you have to have transportation safety training, things like that.
So what about for us, like backgrounds, like for us personalities, like what type of things should you expect from a child? You can get your clock hours, but that still doesn't create of who you are as a teacher for us being able to control kids.
So the temperament of a teacher, that's what you're asking me, what their temperament should be like.
What should we expect of our teachers in the daycare? We can't be expecting them to be slapping our kids when we leave.
Oh, no, you shouldn't expect them. You should demand that they don't, actually. You have to be pretty open to be a child care professional. Like, to be a caregiver, you have to be fun, easygoing. You can't stress out very easily. Your temperament has to be pretty laid back, because children give you a lot, right? And if you have 4 infants, you can get a lot, like all of them crying at the same time. So you have to make sure that you're able to handle that without stressing out, without having a panic attack and walking out of the classroom. So for the most part, I think it's experience. So I think if you're new to childcare, I don't think you should start in infants. I think you should start in an older group, because they're less demanding, and they'll tell you what they need, opposed to trying to figure out what an infant needs.
What do we say to those parents that, hey, I can't afford no daycare, because daycare is expensive. Like, I'm just gonna drop them off with whoever, we're gonna go over here. Like, of course we run different risks, but like, what about the people that can't afford daycare? Like, what resources do we have for them?
Okay, well, first I'll say don't do it. Don't drop your child off to the neighborhood babysitter who is not regulated. Illegal operations, there's so much risk there. There's no one overseeing them to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do. So don't do it. However, if payment or money is the issue, I know that Workforce Solutions has programs like NCI. I forget what that stands for, but it's NCI, where they either pay for full child care for your children, or they pay a certain amount, so that your child care fees are reduced.
That's a big. I need you to say that again, because I feel like that is some information that a lot of people don't know about.
Okay. Well, yeah, Workforce Solutions is where you go to find jobs. So they also have a program called NCI. I think it's Neighborhood Centers, if I'm not mistaken. So there, if you apply for it and if you qualify, your child care can be down to zero, or it can be reduced significantly.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, it's great.
That is a big thing.
It's better than an illegal daycare center.
Definitely. So I'm just trying to think of anything I can think of for us, like daycare centers. What about nurses? Should they have registered physicians or somebody on site?
In my time with childcare licensing, I do recall a couple of facilities. I think these were bigger franchises where they did have a nurse on site. Is it required? No, but that's definitely something that would be good as to show that you do exceed the standards. Most times they probably wouldn't need the nurse. Most kids are pretty cool, but there's also things in the standards that tells you how to handle emergencies, like how to handle if a child is injured. This is what you're supposed to do. And the parents also give you contact information to the child's doctor, and they give you permission to seek medical attention in the event that something does happen and you have to call 911 or something like that.
I just feel like I know it's not up to you for a thing. I just feel like that's strange, especially be dealing with infants and other people's kids, and you not supposed to have. It's not even in the standard that you need to have a licensed physician or somebody on site to be able to take care of those emergencies, because who knows how long anything is going to take, for anybody to get to a daycare.
Right, and that's actually really a really good idea. Actually, I haven't even thought of that myself, and I've been doing this for quite a bit. One of the things that is required for caregivers though is to have first aid and CPR training. Yeah. So they do have to have that basic stuff. And in those classes, they go over things that could possibly happen at daycare. So maybe that, could ease the minds of parents who would prefer a nurse on the facility. But they do give you that. You are required to have that kind of training. But I kind of like that idea with the nurse. I don't know. I may look into something.
Because I feel like that would be a great thing because it'll just, it's somebody there immediate to be able, that's, I guess, equipped and ready to take all the terminology and know what's going on to, I guess, help the situation instead of wait.
Right, because public schools have nurses, and I didn't think about it until you just said it.
See?
Okay.
See, this how we get there. This how we get there.
G, bringing knowledge.
No, but okay, so let's get on the nutrition of the kids. So what is the plan? What is the standard plan for nutrition?
Okay, so there is the food pyramid. So licensing pretty much just requires that you follow the pyramid, because the pyramid is just the recommendation, right? But some of the rules, some of the requirements are the service of water. So water is one of the key things that licensing requires, that child daycare centers serve the children very often, okay? So that was implemented. I think they reduced the milk, like no whole milk. It has to be like 2%. So they're reducing the intake of certain milks for certain age groups as well. Now, I don't have my standard book in front of me, so I don't have the specific details, but I know that there is a reduction in the amount of milk and the percentage of milk that children
I want to look into that because, I wonder why they tell you, because they always tell us milk does a body good, right? Why are you dropping the milk percentage then if that's the case?
That's a topic for another day.
But
that milk.
So, I think I've only seen maybe like one or two daycare facilities that actually, of course they do meals, but actually had a full kitchen and do the meals right there. I guess every daycare is supposed to have a full kitchen?
Not necessarily supposed to. So either you provide the meal for the children or you outsource. So you can have the food catered in. If you serve meals at all, because I know some centers are like short-term after-school programs where they don't have to serve lunch or breakfast, for example. But the full-service facilities that are open from 6 to 6, they have to provide meals, breakfast, lunch, snacks. So they should have some kind of kitchen, or they should be catering the food in. Either one is approved by licensing. So yeah.
So and they have to do 3 meals a day, correct?
It depends on how long you're open.
I'm just thinking 4 days, so we won't get anybody confused.
Right. So general is 2 meals and a snack. So let's say you do breakfast and lunch, then you'll do a PM snack. So after the children wake up from nap, something like that, then you'll give them another snack. So the requirement is just, those the 2 meals and the snack. A lot of times snacks are offered like at breakfast time. They don't serve breakfast, but they'll give a snack at breakfast. Then they'll do lunch and dinner. So it's like any combination. And the full details and the breakdown of this, of course, is in the standards, and it tells you specifically how you have to feed the children, how long you can they go before they eat, those things. Like it breaks it down really, really specifically in that standard book.
So how do child daycare facilities kind of, because they have to feed all the kids the same thing, but we all know some kids eat more than other kids do. Like somebody hungry throughout the day. Like still, they didn't been to daycare, they didn't eat every meal there, and they still hungry. Like should we try to I guess cope to each one, or should parents be trying to get their kids on a more precise meal plan?
The center should be able to accommodate the child's nutritional need. Some children would like seconds. Some children barely eat, the meal that you give them. So you should be able to accommodate all the children there. Some kids eat more on when one thing is served because that's their favorite, and some kids, vice versa. So there's other things that they have, like the Child Nutrition Food Program, which is something that's going to be part of my company after a while, where the Department of Agriculture reimburses child care facilities for the food that they buy for the children. So they also have something kind of like NCI, neighborhood centers, that we talked about, where the children can go to daycare for a discounted price, where daycare owners can receive funding to provide meals for children. So there's so many ways or so many tools out there to make sure that these kids eat when they're in daycare, that all children should be accommodated, no matter what their eating habits are.
Okay, so let's get into a little bit more of a controversial topic.
Oh, well.
You still on that topic? Okay, let's get into the money.
Okay.
Behind daycare.
Okay.
Okay, somebody is 3 weeks behind on payment. They ain't paid nothing, but their kids still there. Should the daycare still feed them?
One of the things that I talk about in operating above the standards is how to manage staff and how to deal with parents, okay? One of the things that I always suggest is do not provide a service before you've been paid for it. I had to learn that the hard way in my business. Do not provide a service until you've been paid for it. So I suggest that all daycare centers collect payment up front and then provide the care. It's problem solved. Look at that. I need to write a book.
Get a payment, then provide the care.
Yes.
But okay, what if they already in the system? They already in the system. She paid the first month, right? Bam, first month paid up. Okay, second month came around. He in the system, he still coming here, but we trying to work with you because we're, new facility. We trying to do good customer service, but you ain't paid me yet. But your child still come here eating every day, staying late. So at that point, do you have to just cut the parent off?
Well, sometimes you do. Sometimes there are real situations to where parents have fallen into a difficult situation, and sometimes we can really, on a case-by-case basis, decide to help this family. But I think what you want to try to steer clear from is being taken advantage of. You're providing a service, and by providing a service, sometimes people can take advantage of your service. So if you are strict about your policies and you don't bend, you will only attract customers, parents, families who will abide by your rules. But again, like I said, it's a case by case. Sometimes things do happen. Families lose jobs. We just had the shutdown, the government shutdown, where the federal employees were affected. Yeah. There were a lot of accommodations made for them. So situations like that is definitely understandable. But you have some daycare hoppers that will go from daycare to daycare and not pay bills.
Do you? Okay, let's be real.
And I learned that in this profession.
Does the daycare really need $1,200 for a month to watch a baby?
Well, you just talked about feeding the children, right? So there's certain things that you want your daycare center to provide for your child. So yes, it could cost that much. It could. Yes, for sure. If that's the kind of service that you want. Now, if you're paying, what'd you say, $12,000?
Who got their phone on them, right? I need to do some calculations up in here because what's 15 times 30?
A lot. But if you're paying that, you should be demanding that much service because that's a lot.
That's $450.
Oh, what is that, a month?
A month. And that's 3 meals. I gave my child $15 a day, $5 he should be able to eat over here. We talking about little kid. That's $450. What? Hold on, what is it? I'm looking like, what is that other $750 going to? Because I'm just, there's no nurse on board, so we're not playing for a medical physician. But everybody got CPR. They got their food.
Well, let me say this.
The facility?
If there are any daycare listeners, any childcare providers, parents that are listening who go to daycare, take their children to daycare, and they have bills that are much higher than yours, are probably kind of like, what? $450? That's a good price. Yeah. Because I've seen a lot more. I've seen a lot higher than $450 a month. So you're probably doing good.
No, I was just calculating $15 a day for a meal.
Oh, you're just talking about for food.
I was just talking about for food because it's usually $300 a week for a child, for an infant.
It can be, yes, it could easily be that.
And that's $1,200 a month right there. I'm just like, what is all this money going to?
But you have to pay the teachers. You want to make sure you have enough staff there. And if you're promoting exceeding the standards, then you're going to want to have 2 teachers to your infants, right? 2 to 4. So when you do that, then you want to you have to pay. And one of the things, even in this profession, is that a lot of child care providers don't get paid a lot, right? They generally won't get paid the $35,000 a year to do this profession. So they don't get.
And that's if they lucky.
If they're right, and they usually probably have to have a director's certificate, a CDA or something behind their name than just being a child care provider. Yeah, so.
And I had a question for Ms. Lynn Williams. Is there any daycare nonprofit options?
Daycare nonprofit options, yes.
No, she said are daycare nonprofits. I'm sorry, I mentioned.
No, I believe they're all for-profit agencies. I don't think they're nonprofit. I think that they can be, because I think that TSU has a daycare center. I think that some
only when they're attached to like educational benefits.
Yeah, I think some government buildings have.
Makes sense,
yeah, but I'm not for sure. For
that's something we both gotta look into.
Yes.
But yeah, like I feel like the money. I think that's really the big issue. So I think what any parent has with daycare is really just the money, or how much, like really seeing does their money go to where it's supposed to go. And I think that it does, especially if the facility is providing all the things that you say here, like good meals, nurse, you know what I mean, good outside, they got good equipment to play on. But it's just so more so when you get into, I guess, your neighborhood daycares, and they're still charging at $250 per person.
Even for those centers that let's say they don't charge as much, they still could provide quality care, right? So even though you may say, well, this building is old, why am I paying $250 for a month for a school ager, for example? What kind of service are they providing? Are they keeping your child safe? Are they going on field trips? Like, are they doing things with your child, or are they just having them come and just sit and do nothing? Because if they're not having them do anything, then they're not really providing the child care experience, which is all in the minimum standards, which tells them specifically all the things that they're supposed to do. So yes, child care does get expensive, but I mean, it's the way of life, and it's gonna always be around.
Agreed.
It's gonna always be here.
I definitely agree. Okay, I think we didn't hit pretty much everything. We didn't talk about the children, the teachers. We didn't talk about nurse requirements. We talked about nutrition. We talked about other resources that anybody. Talked about nonprofits. I really think we didn't touch on every possible.
Really?
Quick.
Okay.
What do you think? What do you think we have here yet? For us coming with child safety and daycare.
No.
I got one.
Okay.
Parents. What should parents do? Why? I mean, I know parents expect, like we drop them off at school, expect the school to teach them everything. What should parents do at home to get their kids ready for daycare?
To get them ready for daycare. That's actually a really good question. So, that's tricky. So there's certain things that you have to do in daycare. You have to follow rules. You have to go outside when everybody goes outside. You have to sit and have snack. There's certain things like that you have to do. So I'd say if you have especially like a pre-K or older, child who's been used to staying at home, get them in the routine of taking a nap at 12 o'clock, because 9 times out of 10, when they go to daycare, they're gonna have to take a nap at 12 o'clock. Eating sporadically. So there's scheduled meal times. If your child just eats all day and they go to daycare, they're going to be pretty irritated that they can't have a snack whenever they want.
Yeah.
So maybe, spacing that out a little bit. What else is there? Cooperative play with other children. Maybe go to the park. Take them to the park.
I was just thinking about that.
I'm giving myself ideas because I have a 4-year-old who's been at home with me for a long time. I'm going to take him to the park to interact with other children. Yes.
They be on you.
Yes. So yeah, get them involved with other children, so that they know what to expect. Because if you're, by yourself at home, everything is mine, and a lot of kids scratch, bite,
Be
so
fighting.
yes. So let's get them, warmed up on how to play well with others.
Should parents be ready to come to the daycare and beat the daycare workers up because their child got scratched by another kid?
No, I mean, you could want to.
Hey, because people out here will go, hey, my baby got bit. What was y'all at watching my child?
Well, I mean, definitely first think about the consequences. But as a parent, I understand the effects that a daycare center could have for not complying and children being injured could be great. Like, they can lose their entire license. They can be banned from opening a daycare center. So one of the things that you want to do if you have an issue with the daycare center is call childcare licensing. Make a report. If there's some crazy things going on that you don't know about, that you don't understand, call childcare licensing.
So it is somebody for people to call, like if they're not happy.
Yes.
I mean, not mad at it, but actually you see something that you don't feel like is normal.
Right, because when I was an inspector, a lot of times parents would call just for clarity. They may call and say, I dropped my infant off this morning and there were 4 infants to 1 teacher. So I would tell them, well, they're at ratio. They aren't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
And sometimes that would help, clear everything up with the parents. So sometimes parents just don't know. So yes, there is an outlet. They can call, get clarity, get the rules, get the laws, and actually tell on the daycare centers when they're not doing what they're supposed to.
Hey, don't get told on out there. Y'all better start doing what y'all supposed to do.
You better snitch.
Hey, I mean, I ain't telling y'all to snitch, you know what I mean? But make sure they following the rules, y'all. But before we get up out of here,
okay.
I mean, tell them where they can find you, your website, where they can get more information, how they can get in contact with you.
Okay. Well, RossHaywood TIC. I'm sorry. I don't even know my own handle. RossHaywood TAC is where you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook. That's RossHaywood TAC, and that's Instagram and Facebook. You can reach me via email. It's Anitra. I'm sorry, that's not right, but that is my first name. It's RossHaywood TAC also. So my email is RossHaywoodTAC@gmail.com, and you can reach me in those places. And if you send a shout out to me, I'll get back with you.
You're kicking it with G on your favorite station.
The perfect station.
92 KELZ, the only station with new music, new artists, new sound.